Hi folks, due to popular demand I'm going to do a brief exam lecture, okay, just to give you a bit of a heads up or a little bit more of an idea as to what to expect in the upcoming exam for ESH 270. So I've given you a lot of support materials. There's an exam practice or practice exam questions in the resources folder in Milo. And I've given you a lot of advice as to how you should go about preparing for the exam through the study guide. So what I'm expecting that most of you will do is take your study guides, develop your own exam questions from those study guides. So in each week you should be able to get out 4 to 5 questions that cover the big concepts from that week. Okay, so if you look at the complex concepts or the things that you feel really speak to this unit, then you're probably or most likely on the right track. And from past experience, when I do this process with face-to-face students, most of the students are developing the same questions that I did from the study guides. Okay, so remembering that the study guides contain information that's drawn from the net, it's drawn from your course reader, and it's drawn from some of the reading list materials. Okay, now in terms of the big concepts in this unit, obviously design and technology are things that will need to be referenced and understood very clearly. The design process, so the pedagogical approaches that lead us to developing creative projects for students, that's really important. So what are the pedagogical processes? They're the things like the design, make and praise, design challenge approach, design thinking, all of those things. So if you have a strong understanding of what goes into a design brief, and perhaps you can understand and unpack the elements of a design brief, and you know that the processes that a student goes through when they're designing, that'll be really important. But I mean, this is really obvious, and I'm not stating anything that I haven't spoken to throughout the semester. If I could go into some specifics, I'm really interested in how technology impacts on culture, and you'll find a really solid reference to that in the study guides. Let me think what else. I've actually got the exam paper here in front of me. So very briefly, we have 9 multiple choice questions, quite simple, and then the remainder of the questions are short answer. Okay, so let me see what gold I can share with you. So you certainly need to understand what's happening in the design processes, the stages and steps and things like that. Relationship between design and creativity, and design and technology, so that the relationships between. Another one that is particularly important is understanding our curriculum. Okay, so you don't need to understand the curriculum in detail, but you do need to understand the organising framework. Remembering that we are one half of the technology's curriculum, okay, and our half is broken up into small portions. And so if you have an understanding of how our curriculum document is organised, so the organising framework, then that's going to be sufficient for the exam. Let's not forget the fun that you had with drawing. So do you remember doing the orthogonal drawing in tutorials? That's a particularly important one to go over again, because we actually do an orthogonal drawing in the exam. You won't be required to make a perfect orthogonal drawing, so I'm not expecting picture perfect results. So if you don't have a ruler, that's not an issue, but if you do like straight lines, bring your own ruler. But what I suggest that you do is try and add as much detail to that drawing as you possibly can. Okay, it's not a particularly hard question, and it's not a response that needs absolute perfection. We're looking for a number of elements from the drawing, and as long as you've got those elements, so organising your page, then you should be fine. Again, I mentioned the social impacts of design and technology. What else can I think of? Obviously, the elements and principles of design would be referenced, but you guys would have already been onto that with your questions that you developed from the study guide. That's a really obvious one. What else can I find? The Williams and Williams text and references to it in the study guide are particularly well referenced in the exam. So if you see a reference to Williams and Williams in the study guide, I suggest you have a really good look at that one. Guys, the other thing I want you to remember is that the exam is there to differentiate between you as students. So I need to find out who is a past student, credit, distinction and HD. So there are going to be some questions that you can't answer. In fact, there'll be questions that some people or most people won't be able to answer. Only one or two will get those questions, and they'll be the HD type questions. But most of you will be able to get the 50 to 60% of questions that reference the general knowledge in this unit. And it's really a broad and overarching knowledge of this unit that's important. I don't need super detail into one or two areas. I just need a broad and overarching understanding. Okay, so expect to get quite a few questions right. Some questions you're not sure of, and some you'll potentially find really challenging. And this is intentional. This is something that you're going to need to do as a teacher too, to find out which of your students fall into those exceptional brackets and which fall into the general knowledge. The other thing I'd like to say is that this exam in the past has been, or for me, it seems quite fair. So what I mean by that is that the result that you get in the first assessment is has a very close correlation with the result that you get in the exam. Okay, so if you put in X amount of effort for your assignment 1, if you put in the same amount of effort for the exam, you're likely to get a very similar result. Okay, but if you struggled a little bit in the first assignment and you want to bring your mark up, then you really need to put in more effort for the exam. Okay, and preparation is already underway. So as I said, there's the discussion board online where people are already donating questions to the cause. I'm sure the Facebook group is sharing questions like crazy. And it's not too big an ask for each of you to develop the questions from your study guides. That's essentially why I developed the study guide approach, so that everything would be in one place and you wouldn't feel overwhelmed when it came to exam time and preparation. Okay, now, as I said, when you develop those questions, and in the past I've watched face-to-face students develop questions, I've noticed that they're very, very similar to the questions that I develop. And in fact, I've been very concerned that they are too close to the questions that I developed and that everyone would get HDs. So, somewhere from the development of the question and understanding the answer to getting into the exam, people are missing information. So, make sure that you understand and respond to your questions in a really meaningful way, because they are likely to be very close to the actual questions that I've developed. I think I've said that enough times. I'm going to be on the exam preparation discussion page until the exam, and I will be moderating that space. So if questions are really out of order, I'll make sure I let people know, and I'll keep you on the right path. Okay, so it's not an exam to be fearful of, as long as you put in the effort consistently throughout the year and you've made a reasonable effort to study during the exam period, you will be fine. Okay, so best wishes for the exam. Obviously, you're given a 2-hour block to complete the exam, but if you have a strong understanding in this unit, it's likely that you'll be done well within the hour. Okay, so it's not an onerous task. The questions are quite short. If there's 1 mark given for a question, then I'm only expecting to see 1 major point put clearly. If there's 2 marks or 3 marks for a question, I expect to see 2 or 3 main points expressed clearly. Okay? Alright, so best wishes for the exam, folks. Don't forget to look out online at the Milo discussion post. Go to the Facebook page if that's something that you do, and look for support there. But certainly if you're having any issues or any concerns, feel free to let me know via Milo. Cheers, best wishes.